Today, we're looking at Delta Brown. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. As always, there's timestamps down below in the description, so if you're in a hurry, you can skip around. But if you got the time, I would appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then inked up this Pilot Metropolitan with a 1.0 stub. I wrote with it for a day and then used it to take the notes for this video. In order to have some standardization while looking at writing samples, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper, although there are additional writing samples that occur much later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to make sure I keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is significantly darker than the stub, with no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. The medium is ever so slightly darker than the extra fine. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows no color variation. We didn't get it in the writing, but we do get it by choosing different nibs. Tomoe River. These are transfer, not bleed through. We have no bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. It's a nice dark, rich brown there. The extra fine is significantly lighter than the stub. No feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. The medium is a medium in tone. It's right between the extra fine and the stub. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 21 seconds to dry. Again, the shading is achieved through the nib. The scrubbies for both shows no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. Rhodia, no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is a lot lighter than the stub. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is much darker than the extra fine, just a little bit lighter than the stub. With no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade again, 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us a little color variation when you look far left to far right, but it's really not showing up in the writing sample. I agree with Vita that we learn a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the right is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this kind of pink tone across the bottom. It pushes up, and then it has a very kind of rich brown at the top. So it's got a pink and a brown that looks mixed here. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And let's be honest, if I didn't put my dry ones on the right, you wouldn't be able to tell which one was which. Makes me say that I don't expect any kind of resistance from this ink because, man, you can't tell them apart. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, and you wonder what kind of gross mess that is. It really destroyed it. Now, it's not saying that this ink has any kind of water resistance. That tells me don't use it in a note-taking situation if you value your words. Water is reactivating and lifting this ink almost entirely off the page. It's like this kind of khaki color left behind, a little bit of that pink from the chromatography. I do believe that given a little bit more time and some care, that water can be all that's needed to get this ink off of your page. However, if you needed to use pen flush, you can see in the pen flush white of the paper coming through. Since I only gave that pen flush 30 seconds, if you gave it a little bit more and some care, pen flush is all that you should need. 1/3 bleach solution, as would be expected, completely obliterated it. But there is no reason to use bleach to get this out of your pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with a realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Now I'm going to link the video that shows how I do my testing and calculations. Delta's Brown has a viscosity of 3.22, making this a drier ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Delta's Brown has an average dry time of 12 seconds, making it just a little bit faster than normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Delta's Brown, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I was thinking of a really nice gray to go with this, and I went with the Atramentis Silver Gray. The next writing sample is done on Field Notes, Northbooks, and Fabriano. Being such a well-behaved ink, I really wanted to look at some papers that fountain pen ink has more trouble with, like Northbooks. That's not a bleed spot here, that's a transfer. This is a bleed spot, but it's also where the scrubby was. So it's going ridiculously thick. So otherwise, we have really no bleeding and no ghosting. It does very well there. The stub has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. It's performing great. It is a very nice tone of brown with this cream colored paper. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade. 2 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub, with no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade, still 2 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. Congratulations. Field Notes. Now on Field Notes, we see spots bleeding here, but just barely. It's not really coming through. It wouldn't stop you from using the back of the page. It doesn't touch the page underneath. It does very well. Very well. The 1.1 stub has minor feathering at the T and the A of Delta, but only there. It's the only spot I see minor feathering. Nothing that's distracting from what you wrote. No spread, halo, sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. The medium, same tone as the extra fine and the stub, very consistent on lower quality papers. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 2 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. So we give it a very nice paper. Fabriano Echo Qua. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. There is a slight difference in tone from the brown, or from the stub to the extra fine. It has, the extra fine has no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade, 3 seconds to dry. The medium has a slightly darker tone than the extra fine. The medium has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. And that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Delta Brown? My problem is there's so many brown inks I love that perform so exceptionally that this one really has a problem. The tone feels slightly off, although it does perform well. And you can get color variation, but only depending on what pen and nib you choose. So what pen and nib give the best writing experience from this ink? Now, round nibs, I found the color to be uninteresting. all the time. But non-standard nibs, like stubs, like fude nibs, I found to be much more interesting in how it looked on the page. So go for your non-standard nibs here, and the flow is up to you. I'm going to remind you that I'm here every day with a new ink review. Thanks for watching.